Hi, my name is Elena and I'm a pain care yoga therapist. I wanted to share with you something that happened to me in hopes of providing you with a deeper understanding of the science behind pain. I was teaching a yoga class and I scratched my finger in the back of my index finger somehow, and it hurt. Like it really hurt. So much, in fact, that I had to glance down just to check out how bad of a scratch it was, and kind of surprised myself when I saw it was just a tiny little scratch. So as I see this tiny scratch, I'm thinking, oh, okay, you're fine. Finish my class. I roll up my mat. I gaze down at my mat and I see there's blood smeared on the mat. Look at my finger. Tiny scratches now, dripping blood. I become a little annoyed and frustrated that this is causing me a bit of extra time because now I have to go find a Band-Aid. And I have to go teach another class and I don't have time for this kind of thing. So anyways, I get a Band-Aid. I'm walking out into the parking lot. It's a pretty cold day. Actually, it had snowed the day before. I get to my car. I like to think of my car as a vintage car. Some might argue it's actually a beater. But I'm inside my car and the heater takes a while to warm up. So I place my hands on the steering wheel, which feel like two freezing icicles. I turn on the radio, start humming, driving to my next class, and my finger starts to hurt. And I'm thinking, that's kind of weird. It shouldn't really hurt. So I turn up the radio to distract myself, hum a little louder, and drive. And as I'm driving, it starts to hurt even more. And I'm thinking, this makes no sense. Like I saw it was a tiny scratch. It shouldn't hurt this much. So then I begin to try and reason with myself why I'm feeling so much pain when I know that it was just a tiny scratch. It was nothing. And then I think to myself, oh my goodness, you know what? I forgot to disinfect it. I bet you it's infected. So then I start creating a fear of infection. And as I'm creating this fear, my anxiety starts to grow. And as all of this is sort of cultivating and growing over here, my pain starts to increase. So much, in fact, that it spreads up my finger and into the back of my hand now. As this is all sort of interplaying together, I become even more distracted. I know that I need to focus on driving, so I start to bring in some breath to calm my body, start to feel my mind slow down, and then there's like a pause. And in this pause, there's a doorway that opens up. And in this doorway, there's clarity. I think to myself, Elena, you study pain science. And as I acknowledge this, I start to apply some of what I know behind what I'm experiencing. What pain tells us, or what science tells us, is pain is real. What it was feeling was real. Like it hurt. What it also tells us is that pain is very complex. And that sometimes the amount of pain we feel doesn't necessarily measure up to the amount of damage or the health of the tissue, such as in my case. We also know from science and from experiments that as the body is firing danger neurons to the brain is processing these neurons, determining how much danger, how much threat there is in the body. And as it's determining this in its process system, it takes into consideration the biopsychosocial aspects or influences. Flashback 10 years ago, I'm washing a wine glass. Thing snaps, slices, the same finger, actually the same location, just a larger part of that finger. A substantial cut, so much in fact that I needed stitches. So when I re-injure the same part of my body 10 years later, the neurons are firing to the brain. The brain starts processing, determining how much threat that the body is in. And it recalls, hey, wait a second, this happened. She's injured this tissue before, and it was a substantial injury. We better fire out neurons back to the body to stop or protect the body from danger. What also makes this story quite interesting is when I place my hands on the steering wheel that's freezing cold, my pain increases. What we also know from science is that neurons, danger neurons, become more stimulated and excited when there's forces to the tissue or there's chemical or thermal changes that arise. So if you take into account my story, when I place my hands on the steering wheel, there's a thermal change that happens to the injured tissue. This enhances the stimulation, firing the danger neurons more rapidly, more excited, in an excited fashion to the brain. You have all of that sort of going on in the processing system, determining how much pain sensation is going to be felt. And then you add on my anxiety, my fear of infection. And that also is taken into consideration on how much output of pain is felt. As you can see from this story, when you start sort of dissecting it in a scientific manner, pain begins to make sense, why we feel the amount of pain. And as we know, it's complex and it's real. What we feel is real. But what we also need to start thinking about is there's other influences besides just the tissue. And sometimes we start to think that, oh, a certain injury should have a certain amount of pain. But science has proven that's not true, that the amount of pain sometimes just doesn't measure up to the amount of health or the amount of danger or injury to the tissue, that other factors are considered in the processing system of pain sensation, such as the biopsychosocial influences. I hope with this new knowledge, I'm able to provide you with some deeper understanding of maybe what you're going through or somebody you know is going through. And with this education, it provides you with a more comfortable and a little bit easier journey along your pathway to healing.